Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz Interview Series with New York City Jazz Pianist, composer, and bandleader Mara Rosenbloom. We caught up with her about her latest 2021 CD, Flyways, Murmuration, and a career in jazz that has earned her the following description: a wholehearted poet on the piano. Originally from Wisconsin and Madison, she spent the past decade in New York City creating a grand body of work and establishing herself as a vibrant and respected part of the city's diverse network of jazz and improvised music communities. She opens up about this and so much more. Enjoy.
Good. Hey, thanks for taking a minute out.
Yeah, sure.
Let me start off and ask you about Flyways, your new album. You know, it's coming out during a pandemic, a very tenuous time on the planet in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Did the timing, was there anything to the timing of this, or how do you feel about it coming out during this time?
You know, we had planned the release, of course, like before the pandemic. And then our release concert really was right when the shutdown in New York City started. You know, I certainly didn't plan to release it in the pandemic, but that is how it happened. And we ended up canceling our concert. It was just right in that weekend. Obviously not ideal, not ideal for just getting the music to the people, of course for PR, you know, I mean, and which is another facet of getting the music to the people, since there was just really just like a flurry of dealing with the pandemic and processing that and, you know, that rippling through just like every aspect of people working in relationship to music or people just working at all. On that note, of course, not great. You know, I think that while we've all been isolated from each other, people need the music maybe more than they ever have. I definitely felt a lot of relief that we had been able to record it and create it and just have it available for this time. It's a good feeling to have something on offer and to have done all the sort of gathering beforehand, I guess, the rehearsing and the recording and all of that kind of stuff.
So what was your last show like before the shutdown?
Well, the last show I did actually was with Carol Lipnick, incredible, vocalist, songwriter. But, I mean, her shows, I think, always have a very magical, intimate quality. I think she's so good lyrically and also just as a performer at, I think, speaking to feelings that a lot of people are experiencing with nuance and depth. That night, I mean, I think it was the day before the shutdown. I think I had gone to a concert 2 days before that and things were starting to close, and there was we were sort of debating during that day if we were going to cancel the show or not, or if we should still do it. And I mean, I had a sense, I rode the subway to the gig and I was not touching any of the poles or sitting down on the seats and, you know, kind of sanitizing everything at the gig. You know, we weren't wearing masks then. We didn't really know about that. And so the venue they had limited the seating, but they did sell out what they had limited it to. So it was still a very intimate show, and the people that came out were incredibly grateful for the music. It was mixed. I mean, on the one hand, I was a little bit terrified and wondering if I should have been there or not for safety reasons. But on the other hand, you know, the music was as connective as it ever was. I think, we played a great show, and the people who were there, I mean, there was a sense of knowing of sort of valuing that moment because we didn't know when it would come again.
So you're originally from Wisconsin. Talk to me a little bit about exactly where and how jazz became your life.
Well, I'm from Madison, Wisconsin, and there's a great music scene there. I mean, for being a smaller city, you know, I mean, I think you could count, you know, the sort of popular bands or musicians of the town, you know, on one or two hands. But there were some really great musicians. We had a great local brass band. We had a great funk band. There were a couple good salsa bands. And I was super lucky to go to a school that had some jazz ensembles. where I started playing with people and a couple of kids who were really deep in it, who really knew a lot more than I did, who I became friends with and learned from. There was a saxophone player who's in New York now, and also a guitarist that were kind of ahead of me, that were like always feeding me records and stuff. So yeah, I was inspired. It was a place that was easy to go hear live music. I'll say that also. I mean, it's like a big college party town. But one facet of that is there's live free music every weekend outside on campus, and local bands and touring bands. So it was an easy place to access live music. I could also say my parents were big music listeners. My dad's a big jazz fan. My mom's just a kind of every kind of music fan, and so that was also an influence for sure.
So speaking of live music, what was the first live jazz show you saw that really blew you away?
Oh, the first. Wow, I haven't thought about that in a while. Gosh, well, there have been a lot of jazz concerts that really blew me away. Wow, the first. Gosh, I'm sure any answer would be good to this question, but I definitely saw Chucho Valdez in Wisconsin. So that must have been early. Of course, he's an insane piano player. So that was a great show. But it's got to be something in New York that really, I mean, I guess some of the early shows that really inspired me were Jason Linder's big band. My dad had been to New York, and he picked up this Jason Linder, like probably his first record or something, and he brought it back, and that was maybe the first sound of New York that I heard. And when I came here, Jason still had a regular gig at Smalls, like the old, well, I guess there's a couple incarnations of Smalls, but it was the Smalls before the current Smalls. And it was really just like a dingy basement with like carpets and like, oriental rugs and old dingy couches, and you could stay all night. And yeah, he was leading a big band at that time. And I went as often as I could.
Right on. Well, talk to me a little bit about your beginnings, coming from Wisconsin to New York. How did you kind of get interwoven into the New York scene? How difficult or easy, or how was it for you?
Oh gosh, I'm still weaving my way in. No, I mean, I think I'm in now. But it's a huge community. So I mean, I would say like, I've found like sort of some of my groups, I guess. I found, but it's just like a vast network of many scenes. Maybe each scene has a couple people that sort of pivot out to other scenes and kind of connect the whole thing. I like to think I'm positioning myself in that way. Wow, it took so much time. I mean, it's true what they say, connections are everything. But it's not just in terms of business success, which is where you usually hear people say that. But it's just it's just your emotional well-being. It's your sense of community. It's just like the things that support you when you're not sure what to practice or how to do something, get a gig, or I don't know, live on a short budget or whatever it is. I mean, I was fortunate to be able to go to music school here, I guess, just for that reason. It did connect me to a community right away. I mean, it was just like the tiny tip of the iceberg, but I met Darius Jones in school, saxophonist, and he was definitely a connecting force for me. He introduced me to Cooper Moore, who became a mentor of mine, and that sort of started to open up a whole world for me, I would say.
As you look back on your career, what's the most surprising thing that's happened to it? What happened that you just didn't expect that may have been a happy accident?
Every day in New York is a surprise. A little bit less so in the pandemic. So many things have been surprising. I'm a member of the band, of Don Drake's band, Zapote, which is a band that self-described as a global soul, or she's always thinking of different titles, but it's a very fun band that plays music from all over the world. There's some salsa influence, some Afrobeat, some samba, some funk, and it's not really a jazz venture. There's vocals and people dance, and we do those kind of gigs. And I guess when I moved here, I had a kind of a jazz intention, I guess you could say. It's been a surprise to have found myself playing other kinds of music, and found it to be so joyful and so enriching and such an important part of the whole thing. Playing with Carol, similar. I mean, that's just like a very new connection now, but my musical tastes were eclectic before I got here. Once you sort of get into playing in a jazz band in high school, or you go to a music program, they tend to be either jazz or classical focused, and sometimes it can make you forget that there's like so many other parts of music that are great to be involved in. If I could say that correctly. I mean, of course, under the big jazz umbrella is also every style of music incorporated into jazz, but
Well, let's do this. Let's make this a little bit easier with the follow-up, and it's this. What do you like the best about being a professional musician? When you wake up each day and know that you get to create, what do you look forward to the most?
The day is mine. Yeah, the day is mine. I always wanted, I think as soon as I was old enough to start thinking about it, I always wanted to be able to set my own schedule. I just wanted to be able to do what I wanted to do with each day, and I really feel like I've made that life, and it wasn't easy. It took a lot of methodical steps. I think that's what I look forward to every day. I mean,
when we do return to live music, what do you hope we all realize about this long time away from live music? An appreciation, epiphanies, things that we realize about being away from it for so long?
I think that I don't have to hope. I think that I can anticipate that people will immediately feel the joy and the connective power of music. I think it's going to be, I think music is going to help bring us sort of back together after this period of being apart. And I think that its ability to do that will be so obvious when we're experiencing it after not experiencing it. I think that's the first and foremost thing, that the music will continue to work. But I guess I could hope, going along with that people in feeling its value will also realize that they should pay their respects. Musicians are still often work for very little compensation. And, gigs in New York, as I understand it, still tend to pay what they paid 30 years ago or longer, if they pay anything at all. And I think something that we've maybe all experienced in the pandemic is who's in our smallest circle, who's in our most local community. And, before we're going to huge stadium concerts, we might be going to see more local music, and just noticing how many people make up that quilt. There's so many musicians that are not big names, not selling platinum records, that are still bringing so much to the community, and for a very for a very small charge. And they could use a little more support. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So if you have a Jazz DeLorean pull up in front of your house, and you can go anywhere, and you could pick where you go, who you see, and any point in history, Who are you going to go see, and who do you want to talk to after the show?
Well, if I could go see anybody in history, who would I want to talk to after the show? Well, I would love to go see Billie Holiday and with Lester Young, and I wouldn't mind Teddy Wilson on the piano, and I would like to go to that show with my late teacher, friend, mentor, Connie Crothers, and hang out, all of us, after the show. Yeah. I have to say that I am a huge Earl Hines fan, and I would dig to see Earl Hines. But I think if I try to tie up that whole, who would I like to talk to, sit with, watch, that whole thing, then I'll go with the Billie Holiday. But, of course, I would love to see Earl Hines.
Everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but you're the one leading your life. Who do you think you are?
Oh, wow, deep question.
Yeah.
Who do I think I am? I think the message that I've received that I feel like I need to deliver is human connection is got to be one of the most valuable things that we have. And like connecting with each other, building deep relationships. This work is hard, but it's so valuable. And it's worth it. I don't know. Does that answer the who am I question? I think, I feel like I'm an artist, and I'm just supposed to help communicate this. If I abbreviate it, I might say love each other. It takes more breaking down. We can't put it into a meme. Love each other. It's not that easy.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for taking some time out to talk about the new album and to talk about your life and music. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, interesting question.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Wisconsin, New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Mara for her time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.